Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool.
5th of May, 2 days just around the corner. And it's the end of the line of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past.
Yeah.
And it's the American troops and the German army joining together.
That's the whole case there of...
It's a song about Germans and Americans fighting Nazis.
That, the only man who died in that encounter was the German officer.
Yeah, who saved the French Prime Minister's life.
He did several amazing things there. He, jumped out of the building at one point and, rallied a bunch of men by himself. He was incredible in that whole situation. The amount of, steel balls, basically, to say, we don't stand for this anymore, we're going to join you.
Gangle, I think was his name.
Yeah.
Gangle and Lee. Lee was the American.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, a lot of them weren't... even, you're talking about Rommel. Rommel was heavily demoted and relegated somewhere because he disagreed with Hitler a bunch of the time. And you look at... they had this tactician guy, a strategist, who was insanely dedicated to his craft. And, he's a single-minded guy, and... I think it was Himmler was this guy's got to be gay because he doesn't care about women. All he does is study. And so he challenged him to a duel for being a degenerate, basically. And he got kicked out of the Nazi party. And then Himmler challenged him to a duel because he's like, look at this degenerate gay guy, basically. This guy might have been gay, might not have, but it didn't actually... The thing he seemed to be it wasn't that he wasn't having relationships with women because he was gay or not. It was because he was single-minded. And so when he got kicked out of the Nazi party and challenged to a duel, he started studying dueling, every hour of every day. And Hitler was watching this, and Hitler passed a law because of this guy. Members of the Nazi party aren't allowed to duel to save Himmler's life.
Yeah.
Because this dude was just so single-minded in everything.
He's just obsessive.
Yeah. It's you give him a task, and he will be the best person at it.
Yeah.
And he will do nothing else but be the best person. That's the kind of guy you want on your team.
Yeah.
But they kicked him out, and they kicked out Rommel. And they kicked out a guy, I think, who was confirmed to be gay. He was part of the Nazi party, and on the Night of Long Knives, they killed him.
Yeah.
And
they sent one of the other guys to Africa, who was a really good general. There was the Russian front guy, and there's...
Oh, Rommel was in Africa during World War One.
Yeah.
I don't know about World War Two.
Yeah,
Rommel is possibly the greatest general ever in all of history.
Really?
Yeah, he's up there. Him or Napoleon or Caesar, probably.
Yeah.
Or Hannibal, I guess. Alexander.
There's a lot.
Africa. What was his? Scorpius.
Yeah.
Or Scipio? Africanus? What? Africanus. That is his name. Scipio Africanus.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the guy that beat Hannibal.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, the reason I would make it the three would be Napoleon, Rommel, or Julius Caesar, is because... So Julius Caesar, he was fighting identical forces, and he was winning.
Yeah.
And it's very rare you say identical forces. Alexander, he was outnumbered most of the time, and so was Hannibal, but they had better troops.
Yes, and better technology, in the case of Alexander.
Yeah. Now, Napoleon had more troops than anyone else, so that's why I have difficulty calling him the best, but the reason I put him in the top three still, possibly, is because he won 50-something battles in a row. And that doesn't seem to be luck at that point, or even superior technology. You think you have a bad day once.
Yeah. Well, he did have a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Waterloo.
Yeah, but that was sort of that wasn't even a proper fight. He was out of exile. He was sick. It wasn't his army anymore, exactly.
He was also fighting the full wealth of the
British and Germans and Russians.
I'm not saying those countries.
Oh, the Rothschilds.
He is fighting the full wealth of the Rothschilds.
Yeah. Well, I said that in the first. I said the English, the Russians, and the Germans. Yeah. The Prussians, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, actually, that made them even richer because they had to be paid back. It was a loan.
Oh.
That's one of the reasons why they got so rich was the Battle of Waterloo.
That's terrifying. Impressive. Yeah. You think that is kind of impressive in a way that. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But the Nazis, money didn't stop them.
Yeah.
The Rothschilds, they're a Jewish family. You think they would have been doing everything they could to bring down the Nazis, you'd think. And obviously they didn't do anything. Yeah. You think there was I forget who said it, but it was basically you just put out like I'll give you $1 million if you shoot Hitler. His own party would turn against him. The Rothschilds could have done that.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So
Well,
the other thing you have to maybe the Rothschilds did pay people because Hitler had 42 assassination attempts against him.
Yeah.
And the thing is, sometimes you say all you have to do to kill someone is stand up in the middle of the street when they're walking by and shoot them, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with assassinations is the assassin wants to live. And so you say, if people had just stood up and tried to shoot Hitler, it would have worked. People did try to just stand up and shoot Hitler, and it didn't work. I think
the man who assassinated Hitler didn't walk away with it.
Yeah, even the man who killed Hitler didn't get But no, I think Himmler got shot like in the crossfire at one point when he was shot. They put a bomb under his seat and he survived. Yeah. They put a bomb on a plane he was on.
Well, some of those things were just luck.
Yeah. No. Well, 42.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not luck. I'm saying that the devil's on his side.
Well, I remember watching. I talked about this before. I think a really weird documentary on like
42 Ways to Kill Hitler. I think there's one called.
It's not. It wasn't that documentary. It was his obsession with the occult and him trying to do magic.
Maybe he succeeded. Yeah. No, he definitely like the Operation Valkyrie, which they made that movie about. That was like half of his highest staff.
Yeah.
The people that had the most access to him.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
They themselves couldn't do it. Yeah. So the reason Rommel I put on this list is during World War One. So I said that Caesar equal forces and he won. Rommel was part of the German army, which was losing on every single front in World War One, except his, where they were winning. Which makes me think either for some reason they gave all their best troops to Africa instead of Europe, or he was given a losing hand and was consistently winning.
Well, if he was in Africa, he'd also be fighting the Foreign Legion.
I guess they would have been around. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, no. He was in Africa in World War II as well, I believe. Yes, because he was fighting against was it MacArthur? That was the famous. He was reading his mail thing.
Yeah.
That was Rommel who was defeated with the Enigma device.
Yeah.
Or with the what was it called? Ultra.
Yeah.
The Ultra, which
Ultra cracked Enigma.
Yeah. And if they didn't have that, who knows what wrong? Like, I don't think the Germans would have won because I don't know. The more I learn about World War II, the only way the Germans win World War II is nukes, I think. And even then, I'm not sure.
Well, if you understand World War II, this was the plan. The actual plan of World War II was, all right, Blitzkrieg into France. Take everything in between. Then
take Poland.
Yeah, well then, so you take that whole area, and then it's, all right, England, like you have the empire, we have our empire, we'll leave each other alone.
Yeah.
They sent that letter, and England refused. But there's a really weird story behind it. That basically the British broadcast that letter to everyone, basically saying, "Guys, what's going on here?" And it's possibly them doing that possibly stopped the fascists in Mexico from attacking the States. Like there is a mess of communications and like mixed message. But anyways. So what they wanted to do is they allied with Russia, and they smashed through France. They wanted to take over France, occupy it, and they said to England basically, "Let us have this." And then the plan after smashing France was to smash into Russia and take the best parts of Russia and leave the rest behind, basically piece them out. That was the plan. And so it was very much their troops go through France, then they leave whatever's left over, and they head up into
Poland.
Yeah. So at the same time, because they had the Axis, so Italy was doing whatever Italy was doing, like fighting with Spain and all that mess, because I don't know much about Italy.
Yeah.
And Japan was supposed to wipe through China, and during the attack against Russia with the Germans, Japan was also supposed to basically eat into Siberia and just take over those areas. So what happened though is the British said, no, we're not going to let you do this. And so they decided, it's like, okay, everything's in motion, we still have to keep everything rolling. And then all of France's colonies, like, we're not rolling over, we still can fight. And it's like, okay, this gives French people hope. We have to attack Africa. It's like, all right, we can still handle this. but we're just going to send all these planes across. We're going to bomb Britain into oblivion, and they'll surrender.
Yeah.
Because we'll just bomb them in oblivion. Like they can't handle us. Like, okay, we don't want to fight you, and we don't even want to take over Britain. They'll just peace out with us, and we have to do this fast. And so they start sending the planes over, and the British they keep calm, carry on. You can't shake the Brits, and the colonies, which they thought they would take really quickly in Africa, turned out to have some of the better soldiers in them because the people who lived there are nutcases. And the UK called in both Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and basically its colonies in Africa, and the Dutch colonies in Africa, so Italy's fighting those, but all those forces came in.
And Japan had to go and tick off the states.
Well, not even that. So there's more and more calls for America to join, but the Americans were refusing. They actually held votes on it of should we do it or not.
And then mysteriously, the Lithuania was sunk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that, but also the Germans were scared of America. But America was making so much money during that period because they were bankrolling the UK.
I should be clear as well, actually. The Lithuania probably sunken by Germans. And the reason, but what the Americans were doing was they were taking passenger ships and filling them full of weapons and giving it to the British. And so the Germans were in this horrible situation where it's like, okay, we sink a passenger ship, or we allow the British to get tons of weapons.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we do?
Yeah, so, and this was all loan, so America was making a ton of money. The hopes to have Mexico attack America failed, because what the Germans wanted with that is they knew the Mexicans could win, but they wanted America to not be concerned with Europe.
They want them to be afraid and just on the defense a little bit.
Yeah, on the defense, and also their hope was Canada. Canada was pretty small at the time, but still, they wanted Canada to help the United States. So they wanted to cause some mess there. And then it just didn't look good, and so Pearl Harbor was planned as a strike, just destroy the American Navy, whatever they had, try to keep them injured, but everything else was still rolling, and it's like, we couldn't get the British defense, so now our army has to be split in two because we couldn't put our whole force against the Russians. Italy's useless, and then Italy actually switches sides, although the fighting in Italy apparently was horrible.
Yeah, I just think...
And it's basically, Germany tried to do too much all at once, and nothing went as they planned, because the original plan was just to take over France.
I think that if it had been the entire Axis versus only Russia, Russia still might have won.
Yeah.
Well,
so Russia lost 15% of its population.
I don't know the number of it.
No, but it's not like the fighting age of men. It's Russia lost millions upon millions of people.
Yeah.
Russians actually hate the Nazis in Germany. Like, it is to a different level. Like, oh, we don't like Nazi Germany. It's like it is so ingrained in their mind that this was the death of our people.
Yeah.
Like, so many young men died.
Well, so you were saying what was going on in Italy. Yeah. So in World War One, they were on the...
Allied side?
I don't remember what they were called. The Alliance and the Entente, I believe, was during World War One. And they were part of the... Anyways, they're on the
British side?
British side. The French... I guess French would be closer. But yeah, they were on the British side. And they were promised, if they fought, their old lands back, because they had been losing their lands over the years.
Yeah.
And I think they had the highest casualties of World War One. They lost 40% of their fighting age men or something like that. Like, ridiculously. They lost a massive chunk of the Italian population in a single battle in the Alps, where it was against Hungary, I believe, and there was an avalanche, and it killed like all the soldiers on both sides. Stairway to Heaven, Soldier of Heaven, by Sabaton's about that event, and it kind of broke the Italian psyche, and the war ended, and they actually lost land over the course of the war, because some of their land was given to a different ally instead. Yeah, and so they were promised. They were like, okay,
they were promised quite a bit, and then huge chunks were cut out for France and all the other countries, and they got nothing.
They got less than nothing. They lost land. It's not that they didn't get their promised land. They got less land than they started with.
Yeah.
After sacrificing more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so World War II comes around, they're like, we're on this side. And then they start losing horribly, and they're like, we're on this side now. And I think during World War I even, they had been on one side originally, and then they switched because of the promise or something like that.
Yeah.
So they had already lost a bunch of trust and faith and everything else due to switching in the first place. So they've had a very rough history over that period. And I don't know what they were doing in like the 30 Years' War or something, but they hadn't been doing well for a while.
World War One. I didn't know about this. Do you know about the 3-year peace in World War One?
Don't think so.
So you know the whole thing about like the Christmas truce?
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than just Christmas. Like they literally wouldn't shoot at each other. And there's this one guy. So to make it look like they're doing stuff, they would fire their their artillery and like blow up parts of them up. And there's this one officer who he needed to basically go through this area that was getting shelled. And he told people before, the Germans are so precise when they're shelling that you could set your watch by it, and I know exactly where they're going to land. And so he needed to go somewhere while they're shelling. It's like, no, you have to stay inside. Like, no, and he just walked, and he is perfectly fine because he knew exactly where they're going to land. And there was this case where one guy basically opened fire, fired their guns. The Germans fired across at I think it was the British soldiers in the trenches, and they end up hitting someone and wounding them. And so the British are like, well, we have to give them what for. And so they go off and they start firing back. And while they're firing, one of the German soldiers ran out and he's like, stop. That was an accident. We were trying to shoot at this other thing. And our guns have been poorly manufactured, so we accidentally hit you. We don't want to keep shooting. And they're like, all right, fair enough. And so they just went back. And there's just so many these little truces all over the line where they literally didn't fight for 3 years in some cases. And there's this one story of a British officer showed up. He's like, what are you guys all doing? Like, you have to go fight them. And the British soldiers sent a message across to the Germans and said, snipers, target this guy. And they got rid of that officer, and then life continued as normal. Like, they really didn't want to fight each other.
Makes the Canadians even worse in
Yes.
that war. Yeah. So, yeah, there's actually another story from World War One. So, the Germans came up with this method when they were fighting the Italians, where they would so there's a German sniper, and he found out how to kill as many Italians as he wanted, right? And so he'd call out, he'd say, hey, Mario! And an Italian man would pop up and he'd shoot him. He'd say, and he'd do it again, hey, Mario! And another Italian would pop up and he'd shoot him. And then the Italians, they were dying, losing men left and right, and finally an officer came up with an idea. And so the officer went over and he said, that's it, I'm stopping this. And so he went and he called, hey, Hans! And then from the German lines, he heard, ah, is that you, Mario? And the officer popped up and he's like, why, yes, indeed. And
Actually, on the sniper thing, so sharpshooters would do a thing where they would shoot. So the sharpshooters would be there shooting at each other, and they'd purposely shoot next to each other. So it was like they'd both be out there, and then it's like, oh, I know you're there. So he'd shoot, and the bullet would hit next to him. It's like, oh, the Germans know where I am. And so he'd get up and go back because he'd been beaten that day because the Germans shot next to him. And it's like, but I got him 2 days afterwards of shooting next to him, and it's just bizarre.
Do you think that by bringing the video camera to warfare, right?
Yeah.
So that women could see war.
So there is there's a Cyanide and Happiness cartoon where guys are at war, and so all the Germans and the British and the Italians, so they're all sitting together and they're playing cards. It's like, oh, I'm off to war. And it's like, oh, it's my wife. It's like, shh, don't tell your wife. It's like, oh yeah, honey, it's really terrible at the war. And so all thing going on. And then it's like, hey guys, I brought my wife. And she's standing there. And oh, go ahead and do it. Do what? Kill each other. What? And then so they start all killing each other.
I'm semi-serious about that, actually. Like,
well, I think Cyanide and Happiness is
because
it's an observation.
If you look at the condottieri during the Italian city-state wars, they, like you were saying, you'd get a shot near you and you'd be like, oh, I lost for today, right?
Yeah.
The condottieri would do that with maneuvers.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, you've got a superior force on that hill. Okay, my mercenary band surrenders to your mercenary band.
Terry Pratchett made fun of that with that guy who jumped up onto the table.
No, I did that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was me.
Terry Pratchett had that book full of. He did do something with that where they had a book of strategies, and then one guy just completely ignored the strategies and wiped them.
Maybe he has a version of Tacitus or whatever his name was, the tactician guy. But yeah.
Sorry, it's very Terry Pratchett, but it was in take it as a compliment. Clay as your own.
No, it is. Yes.
But it was basically like there's this book of strategies and you have to follow them. It's like all different tactics, and then one guy's just like, so what if I ignore the book and just attack? And so he destroyed the armies, and they're like, he's breaking the rules. He's not following the book.
What if I just shot them?
Yeah.
Or you look at the Celtic warfare, where a champion would step forward and say, "I am Cuchulainn of Ulster. Who will challenge me?" And then one man would step forward and he'd be like, "I am Ferniad of the Isle of Sky and Shadow, sworn to Maeve of the... I will challenge you."
Yeah.
And they would fight in the ford, and then Cuchulainn would kill Ferniad and be like, "Who next challenges me?" And like that's how Celts kind of did warfare. It was a sort of... And often there wasn't even death involved in those things. It was you injure the guy and he steps down, or you defeat him and he yields, and he's now your battle brother or whatever else, your prisoner, whatever it might be. And even the Aztecs were taking prisoners.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it before. There's that famous prisoner during the War of Flowers, I think it was, where he was this unbelievably good fighter, and they finally took him down. And they were going to sacrifice him, and then they were attacked again, and he's like, "Let me get free and I will fight for your side." And he fought for their side and he won the fight for them, basically. And they're like, "Wow, you're awesome. Okay, we're not going to sacrifice you." And he's like, "No. You caught me. You should sacrifice me."
Yeah.
Like a moron. But they had this room of redemption, right? Like they're like, "You're a great warrior and you showed honor on our side. We will free you."
Yeah.
And the Iroquois, the warriors would capture each other and then torture each other to death, which isn't nice, but they weren't killing each other on the battlefield.
No, there's that story that Bob Gimlin told about those war reenactors, the American Civil War. And because they didn't want to hurt each other and just having fun, how they would like do duels is they sneak into each other's camps and steal stuff from each other at night. And it's like, the Confederates got us, like the reenactors, like, the Confederates got us that time.
And you look at, I can't think of a specific example, but like Pompey and Julius Caesar, for example. They're opposite sides of a civil war. They're best friends.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of discussions where they go and they meet up and they hang out, and it's like, "I hate that we're doing this," and they go and leave. Like there's, and I think...
So I think one of the other things that...
I thought of Hannibal and Africanus. Yeah. They were buddies. They went to the spa together.
Yeah.
They were fighters on opposite sides of a war, and they were buddies and they hung out.
So I think one of the changes between World War I and World War II, like saying...
And not women, actually. It's politicians, right? It's when the politicians see what's going on.
Yeah. So one of the other changes... I think that can influence this is a vast difference in technology of if you have the superior technology or if you have the weaker. And technology can be like...
Yeah, then you have to be more brutal, Like the Vietnamese with their horrifying traps. And
or the Pakistan, Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm.
Against Iraq,
Iraq, where...
I think it was.
That small group of soldiers basically did something impossible, but... It more just showed the world how lopsided the American...
Yeah, how much more powerful the Americans were.
Because there was a guy, one of the planners of Desert Storm, thought he was sending all those men to their death. Yeah. Because he knew what he was up against. And it's like, in history before, even like slightly better technology, slightly better trains, like most of these guys are going to die. And I think they had very few casualties.
I wonder like the Zulu... when they fought the British, I
think also another thing that can possibly influence it is zealotry.
But I wonder if the Zulu would have been so brutal if they had been fighting an equal foe. Because instead, they... Like, it's meant to be this heroic stand, right? Where it was like 40 British people against like 500 Zulu or whatever. Yeah. But the Zulu were getting slaughtered. Yeah. And they had to retreat because they didn't have like massive amounts of guns.
Yeah. So they were attacking a 4-5 position with
spears,
severe technology.
Yeah, they were attacking people with
guns and cannons.
Guns and cannons in a fort, and they had spears and shields and a couple of their own guns.
Yeah. And their guns were a lot worse.
And the Zulu might be the most fit people in history, but there's just nothing they could do. And so it's sort of which is really interesting when they made the movie Zulu, I think it was. where everyone involved in the production of that movie was proud of what their ancestors had done. It was like you had the Zulu who were playing the Zulu were like, yeah, this was a heroic moment for the Zulu. This is a heroic moment for the British. And it's a very weird way to look at it because it's like you were killing each other.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if it's people like the Japanese and the Canadians that make war worse for everyone else. You have these people. It's like you go to your let's say it's grade 7 or something, and you have your school football game, and everyone's just sort of playing and like, oh, you pushed me, and then you've got this kid that is just like grabbing people by the back of their neck and slamming them into the earth and like ramming people aside with their shoulder, and suddenly the game changes. Suddenly it becomes much more brutal, and the only way to survive is to be as brutal in return.
Yeah, or then the guy starts like putting poison in their like water.
Yeah, and so I wonder, there is clearly cultures that are much more brutal, like the Japanese.
Well, the Geneva Convention
and the Canadians.
When was that made? Was that World War One after that? Like because the mustard gas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was World War One, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I guess basically there are certain things we really shouldn't do. And, I mean, they say Geneva Convention, but one of the really weird things about Geneva Convention is it's a set of rules that punishes the loser of a war. Because you're going to pull out all the tricks if you need to.
Yeah. And then you're going to forgive yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, basically, it's...
But it can shake your allies.
Yeah.
Like, if you win the war, and then a neutral group... Like, let's say right now... the Ukrainians decide to totally break the Geneva Convention to take out the Russians, right?
Yeah.
China and India, who are the two sort of neutral parties here, are going to be like, okay, I was wondering if I should be with Russia or the States, and maybe I'm now going to be more inclined to be with Russia because you guys broke the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
And if you got China and India, that would be quite something.
China's strange. There's a cultural saying in China I learned about recently. I can't say it, but the translation is if you can cheat, cheat.
I've heard that. I wonder. I know Korea does that as well.
Well, so there's this really weird case happening right now, which is what are all the little islands off China? Like they're below Japan and China.
I know what you're talking about, yeah. And Barbie movie started an international incident.
Did it?
Because it has a map of China where it shows a 9-dotted line instead of a 7-dotted line, which means that it gives the land to Indonesia instead of China or something like that.
Yeah. China agrees on the opposite of that. So they've claimed all that water.
Yeah. No, that's what caused the incident, was that Barbie movie didn't say that this is Chinese territory, basically.
Yeah, but China has installed, they don't want the fishermen in that area. And so they installed basically these giant like metal cables that stop boats from going through that area, like these floating cables. And so divers are coming along and cutting them with like wire cutters, basically get rid of that. And there's so the Fukushima reactor, which Japan emptied it because like, okay, we've treated it enough, now we're going to put it into the ocean.
Yeah.
And China basically stopped all trade with Japan on that and started hoarding salt and said a whole bunch of horrible things about Japan, like we're not going to do all this. And they're overfishing the sea in that area right now and taking out fish. And 7 of their reactors their nuclear reactors, pour waste into the sea that is worse than, in 1 year, than all that stored up water coming out of
Now, we talked about this during our nuclear power episode where water is basically the safest place to store nuclear waste, except for the fact that it moves.
Yeah.
But it basically stops radiation cold. But the problem is that it might wash up on shore tomorrow.
Yeah.
or an fish will go down near it and die or get horribly mutated. Yeah. But beyond that, it is a good containment. Yeah. No, I wonder, like that whole if you can cheat thing. I've heard it quite a few times about China, actually. But I bet there is a Western saying.
Yeah. Which probably sounds just bad.
Yeah, or is similar, which not everyone follows. Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think everyone in China follows it. Like,
because just because you have that saying doesn't mean everyone's doing it, right? Like,
yeah, no, I doubt everyone in China is doing it. It's just there is definitely like is serpents that ate. So do you know who he is?
Yes, and him and Lao Ai. I'm actually like,
think they're psyops or.
I'm vaguely suspicious that they even if they're not psyops, right? And let's say it's more likely that they're not, right?
Yeah.
I think they're still biased because they were done wrong.
Yes. No, I definitely think they were. I don't think they're psyops. I just think they were done wrong, and they do have a bias.
And so even if they're trying to be honest,
Yeah.
and like even then, I still don't fully trust them, and they're always going to see the worst in China rather than the best. Because you look at like Korea has this sort of, outsmart your opponent through sleight of hand and tricks and whatnot, and China, if you can cheat. But Korea, China, and Japan have a very sort of, if you go back far enough, they have a shared history.
Yeah.
Like a shared culture, even if you go back really far, because Japan was probably founded by Chinese people, but it's not known, but it seems the most likely. And if you look at that, it's weird that Korea and China are this cheaty place, and then Japan is so ridiculously strict on an honor culture.
Well, I mean, you could argue that Japan was the soldiers that the emperor said, and if it's a group of soldiers, then you're going to generate a country of honor culture.
So it was all the honorable people that...
It was all the honorable soldiers that were told, if you come back without the immortal, I'll kill you, and so they didn't come back.
So all the honorable people left, and that's why you have the split.
Well,
yeah.
Even without like circumcision, what Lao I say, like we were in Japan, and was very culturally different. And apparently China and Japan are very culturally different.
Yeah.
And so I no doubt that China definitely, it's like they're still human, but still different. One of the things that I find, which is when people talk about monarchy, and Sargon actually touched on this, and Dev did too, of Adam and Stitch.
Stitch, yeah.
Adam and Stitch are very much against monarchy.
Yeah.
And but they're basically all talking about this. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially like you talk to Americans about monarchy and they really don't like it, but even other people sort of elsewhere, they seem to have huge problems with monarchy. And I think one of the things is they're not, when I think about, this is it, when I think about monarchy, I think about the British monarchy.
Yeah. But when the Americans think about monarchy, they think about the British monarchy.
Well, they do too, but a lot of people also think about monarchy of all across the world. And the Asian monarchies were so different than the European monarchies. And the European monarchies were very different than the British monarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, the British monarchy was very unique.
Yeah.
But, I've seen this pointed out before. The Americans had a war, and they hate everything to do with monarchy, over a 3% tax.
Yeah.
And then they elect presidents that do like a 5% tax, and they go about with their day.
But it's meant to be is representation without whatever. Taxation without representation.
Yeah. But then you get Americans. It's funny though. The reason the British were taxing
fighting a war.
The Americans so much was they were fighting a war with the French, right? And why do the Americans tax their own citizens so much? Because they have the strongest military on the earth, and they're fighting, even if they're not fighting active wars, they're fighting a huge amount of cold wars and proxy wars.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can say that their military presence in Japan is a war against Japan, in a sense. It's not that they're doing anything, it's just their presence needs to be maintained to keep Japan suppressed, right? And although I don't know if they still do that or not.
They still have military bases, but not nearly as many.
Because I think Germany is now allowed to have a military again.
Yeah. Japan's still not. They have to have a defense force. It's just defense force. Japan has the most powerful defense force in the world of countries' defense forces.
Prussia did that back when Napoleon was conquering everything. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, so it was weird. I remember there was, when China... this was like a world diplomatic moment where China was getting very, like, oh, I'm ready to attack Taiwan.
Yeah.
And they're basically taunting Japan, saying, you're not allowed to attack us because you have a defense force, and you're only allowed to use your defense force in self-defense. And then Japan replied, we consider attacks on Taiwan a case for self-defense. And so we will defend ourselves if you attack this place.
This is a tragedy, and I don't know much about it, but I've just had me thinking geopolitics, right? And I was thinking there's no way China attacks Taiwan, because if they do that, let's say they're able to win, right? Because it takes Like, the United States could probably beat China. We don't know, because we haven't really seen either fight. But the United States would probably win. But it's a very long way to China. Like, the supply chain is a nightmare. So China might win that war, even if the United States is stronger. But Japan can probably hold their own for quite a while against China, right?
Yeah.
And if China attacks Taiwan, and Japan holds them even for a short time, that's basically saying, okay, India is now part of the NATO alliance type thing, right?
Well,
but
India doesn't even... If China commits even, like, a moment to... Like, they turn their focus towards someone else and they have to be fighting, India will capitalize.
I was talking about how I had this problem with Zelda saying, Link, you must find me.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't find a translation anywhere. So what I did was I looked up all these cutscenes in Japanese and on YouTube, because someone did a compilation, like every cutscene in Japanese, in order.
Yeah.
And so it's like the second cutscene because it's right near the beginning. And I'd used YouTube's transcript feature to take the Japanese transcript and then translate that in Google Translate into English.
Yeah.
And so when Zelda in the English version says, Link, look for me, what she says in the Japanese version... No, sorry. That's what she says in the Japanese version. So in the English version, she says, Link, you must find me.
Yeah.
And so the problem with saying, you must find me, is it means every moment that you haven't must found her.
Yeah.
So every time you're walking around, you're looking at something, you're exploring under a waterfall.
You're not musting.
You're not musting. You needed to must have found her.
Yeah.
But you didn't must have found her. You're doing something else. But in the Japanese version, she says, Link, look for me. She says, Watashi o sagatai, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which means that everything you do, you pick up a rock, there's a Korok, but there might have been a Zelda.
Yeah.
You go behind the waterfall, there's a chest, but there might have been a Zelda.
So I'm just thinking about you said the Korok, right? And it's like, help me get to my friend. And so, like, picks up the Korok, he climbs up the mountain, does all this stuff, he puts it down there, and instead of getting 2 Korok seeds, it's a little spinning Zelda pops up. It's like, here you go, and just walks off.
But instead, and that's how the game is clearly designed, right? Because nothing they give you helps you find Zelda. Like they say, check out these 4 Calamity sites. You go to the Calamity sites. Zelda's not there.
Yeah.
They tell you to look at these memories. The memories tell you what happened to her, but they don't tell you where she is.
Yeah.
You go to... the only thing that really actually seems to narrow down is the Clover Gazette or whatever it's called. Like the newspaper.
Yeah.
That actually seems to give you some hints about her. But even then, it's just like, I thought I saw Zelda. And this is it's not even a spoiler, really. Because I think this whole thing was done the wrong way around. I think this should be the first thing you see, maybe. Violina, have you met her? She's the violin player.
Yeah.
Do you remember what she said? She said, I saw someone that looked like Zelda until I saw their face, and it clearly wasn't Zelda.
I think I remember something like that.
And every time you see these hints of Zelda throughout the game, and every time someone tells you a sign of Zelda, they say, I didn't see her face. But Violina saw her face, and she said it obviously wasn't Zelda.
Yeah.
Which just doubles down my Ganondorf theory.
It's Ganondorf wearing a dress.
And also, the...
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Ocarina of Time Zelda Ganondorf with that giant nose. So I didn't see the face, and then when, like, Violina's just... he has that smile and that huge schnoz.
Turns his face and it's the giant nose, yeah. When you talk to the oldest of the great fairies, she says something like, Zelda told me to shut myself off from the world. And it's like, that's weird. Why would she do that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. And that's an interesting book story, but I don't think that's how you make an open world game. With the starting incorrect translation.
Yeah.
With the correct translation, it's a mystery. It's like, look for me. But everywhere you look, it makes you think, I'm not anywhere. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not here. So the more you look for her, the less it seems like there's anything to be found.
Yeah.
And that's fine in a game. That's an interesting detective sort of mystery. It's like, okay, so all the conventional methods don't work. I'm going to start looking for her in the shrines. I'm going to start, maybe if I can get into the Lost Woods, she's there. Maybe if I jump in the crack of Mount Doom, she's there or something. Because everything you try fails.
Yeah.
And so that leads you to, no matter what you do, you're trying to find her. Maybe if I go to the top of Satori Mountain and I catch enough blue peas, they'll lead me to her or something. I need a big net to catch them all. Maybe those weird floating stars in the sky that have the ancient text written on them. Yeah. Maybe they tell you of Zelda. Maybe like there's all these different, and so look for me. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're finding her.
Yeah.
You must now. I am a little bit ashamed that relieved me. Just because you must find me, you can simply ignore Zelda. You can say, screw you. Or no, you can say, excuse me, princess.
Yes.
I'm injured. I'm going to look after myself. Right? You can say, I need to... And I was actually thinking about this. The game isn't structured for it properly, but an Iron Man playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom, like if you die, it's over.
Yeah.
Would actually force you to explore more, because my biggest problem with the game right now is it doesn't seem like I can lose, like any fight I enter, basically, I've been winning. Like I might burn through a huge amount of resources or something, but I can basically walk. No, there's
Have you gone to the giant toads again?
Yes, I killed the obsidian one, I think, which is the strongest kind of them.
Okay.
I killed a dragon. I killed or not a dragon, a gleek or whatever they're called.
The three-headed thing.
Yeah, from the first Zelda.
Yeah.
But the tougher, I don't want to say what creatures there are exactly, actually, so I won't go to it. But the tougher creatures in the game,
yeah,
I can't beat some of them still.
Yeah.
Like the Lionels from the first game, those things are still like nightmares.
Yeah.
Right? But the calamities, I haven't found one yet where I can't just walk in and win.
Which calamities have you fought?
I have fought the birds and the ladies.
Okay.
Maybe they're the two easiest ones. But the thing I remember in Breath of the Wild, for the lightning thing, you had to like defeat the entire Yiga clan. You had to break into the Gerudo town. You had to break into Gerudo town, which was not easy. You had to figure it out, and you had to do all these quests for people. And then you had to defeat the Yiga clan, which you had to find the Yiga clan and then defeat them. That wasn't easy. There was a whole boss to defeat there. And only then could you start the quest to take down the giant camel.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, I walked down into I basically just walked into the main room, and they're like, yeah, can you help us beat this thing?
Yeah.
And then the big puzzle, it was like, walk in a straight line and flip a mirror around.
Yeah. The birds was a little bit more.
With the birds, well, the problem, it's kind of a design problem with Tears of the Kingdom. They're like, go on this long path and figure out where this thing, without too much spoilers, like, go help this person.
Yeah.
Follow this long path, right? But before I did that, I activated the tower, and that sent me flying into the air.
Yeah.
And so I just glided to the end, and then I was on the, and then getting up to the temple thingy, getting up to the equivalent of the bird from the first game.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That takes a lot of effort, but it's still, it's a one session thing, right? Yeah. Whereas with fighting the Yiga clan, I'll do a little investigation, I'll leave, I'll explore some more of the map, I'll come back, I'll do this. Yeah. But this was like, once you're on the path, you don't leave. It's like it's like a straight line, right? It's like you're basically walking to the end of an interesting and difficult corridor, but it's essentially, you've already started the final boss fight the moment you start on that path, in a sense. It's just a really long boss fight, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
There's no like, I'm going to leave and think about this and come back. It's like, you're in it. And it's kind of worrying me in a way, just because I've defeated two of the thingies, which I assume are all the four things or whatever in the game. Maybe there's more, I don't know. And I've explored like 1% of the map. And it's like, I don't want to just artificially not deal with the calamities. But on the other hand, I would like to actually have an excuse to explore this unbelievably, stupidly massive world.
Well,
like you know that the electricity vials?
Yeah.
There's like room for 12 of them or something.
Yeah.
I have 2, and I'm like halfway done the game, it feels like.
Yeah. I do find that as a problem, as well as how easy it is to do those.
Yeah.
Because I've done 3 temples. I haven't done the fire temple, so I've done all the other 3, and then I sort of stopped and went around to work on other things throughout the game.
Yeah.
Because the world obviously needs a little bit of fixing.
But there's no, in quotation marks, there's no reason to, like, you're strong enough without going out of your way to get any new gear. You're strong enough, like, I don't know what it would be.
Well, maybe you beat them all, and then you have to fight Ganon, and he wipes the floor with you.
Or maybe they built in like a Ballad of Champions type thing afterwards. Like, because I haven't gotten that far, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is, do I trust? This is like you're supposed to go to all the stables and collect all this information. You're supposed to go to all these tiers, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like I've gone to one stable as part of the Clover Gazette thing.
Yeah.
And I've defeated 2 of what I think are like the main temples. But that said, and I don't want to look it up, but on the other hand, it's like it's hard to trust in a way, right? Like you have to trust the developer for this work. But so in Link to the Past, there's 3 temples.
Yeah.
And it takes a while. It takes 5-10 hours to clear all the temples.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I guess short game. There's not much of an overworld. It's not really a open world game. It's like a line. It's like go to this temple, now go to this temple, now go to this temple, and now you're done. And then you go back to Hyrule Castle and you fight whatever that wizard's called.
No.
G. It starts with a G, I think.
I thought it was a V.
Maybe. Anyways, you fight the evil wizard.
The Wind Wizard, yeah.
And you beat the wizard. And you're like, okay, well that was a game.
It sends you to the Shadow Realm.
And then it sends you to the Dark Realm, and it says there's 7 new temples.
Yeah.
And not only is the map now slightly more than twice as big, you also have to flip back and forth between the 2 realms to like do everything.
Yeah.
And
you know what else is cool? Is the Link to the Past is actually the realm you're in, because the Shadow Realm's the future, so you're going back into your time, and the Shadow Realm is the future where Ganon won.
Huh. And you're a bunny?
Well, you're turned into an animal because you can turn into an animal inside the your soul. So your basic soul.
His soul's a bunny?
He's a brave little creature because like the bandits turn into wolves and horrible goblins and stuff.
His soul's a giant pink bunny.
Yes.
Right. So there's 7 new temples, and each temple of these 7 temples is bigger than the original 3 you did.
Yeah.
And now it's actually an open world sort of thing where you have to, once you get the giant hammer, it becomes an open world. Without the giant hammer, it's not really an open world. You get the giant hammer, you still have to do the temples in order, but you get the hammer, then you get the hook shot, and it's just like everything starts expanding and expanding and expanding. So now this is the thing. If Tears of the Kingdom has a second layer to it like that, you think that would have filtered down somewhere, and I would have heard about that by now. And if I haven't, that's awesome and amazing. But they also didn't say... It's like...
Remember Okami?
Yeah, where it just suddenly, you think you beat the game, and that's like the first boss.
Yeah, you beat Orochi, and it's like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, and it's really cool when a game does that. But it feels impossible for that to stay secret. But I didn't know about any of Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is, okay, do I trust Tears of the Kingdom and just go and beat all the things? Yeah. But then I turned out, oh no, it wasn't that way.
Well, see, the thing with Breath of the Wild is you can just go fight Ganon.
Yes.
You'll lose.
Yeah.
But you can also go fight all the calamities.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a little bit of build up, like especially with Yiga, like they definitely put more effort, but there's still so much more to the game besides fighting those. But
But the other thing in Breath of the Wild, it's harder to get everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like you go to the Rito and you have to meet the warrior on that mountain, and just to get through the freezing mountain is super hard. Mm-hmm. But in Tears of the Kingdom, you just fast travel to an island above and then you glide down and you're on top of the mountain. Because it's so easy to travel.
You know,
like you can make airplanes and just go anywhere.
2 problems. It's a $100 price tag, for Canadians anyways. But so you're playing Breath of the Wild, right? And so you go along, you go along, you go along, you go along. You do all the stuff you did, and you beat Calamity Ganon.
Yeah.
Then, like the last cutscene, like Link, do you remember me or whatever?
Yeah.
And you get your little bonus cutscene because you collect all the pictures and use the special items. And then the game ends, and then Zelda and Link are walking into ruins, and Zelda falls, and Ganon's dwarf comes back, and the whole world gets upheavaled, and Link has to recover. So, would you want that $170 game?
Yeah, to just go straight to Ganon.
No, I'm saying we take Breath of the Wild, take Tears of the Kingdom, and they're one game.
Right.
But it's $170.
Right.
So you've played Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And then it's Phase 2 is Tears of the Kingdom.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
Well, so you beat Orochi.
Yeah.
And then the whole world opens up.
Yeah.
So you beat Calamity Ganon, and then it turns into Tears of the Kingdom. So
Right.
there's a whole giant new part of the game.
I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, like that's what Ballad of Champions is. That's
Yeah.
what that DLC is basically is.
And that's what I'm saying. So this is a $170 game, though.
Right.
But that's what Tears of the Kingdom is. But is it? No, probably not.
I'm not really getting your point still, because if Tears of the Kingdom, you would pay $170 for that game if it wasn't super short. But my issue is that you can skip all of Tears of the Kingdom and you're done in like it feels like a game you could beat in 20 hours playing normally.
Probably, yeah.
Versus like Breath of the Wild, just walking everywhere takes so much longer. I went from the wind boss, let's say, right?
Yeah.
To one of the spires of courage via what did I use? An airplane, I think?
Yeah.
And just an insane amount of batteries. Like that's a good like third of the map I didn't touch the ground. I was just in open sky.
So is it the way you're playing the game that's making...
But it's so easy to play the game that way.
Yeah.
Like I could limit myself to only being able to walk around on the ground and
Or
not
drive.
use vehicles.
Or is driving even too fast? Like horse riding, is that okay?
It's not quite about speed. It's possible to bypass everything.
Yeah.
It's possible to like it doesn't really okay, so to in Breath of the Wild to fight Wind Blight Ganon.
Yeah.
I needed to first get to the Rito village.
Yeah.
Which wasn't easy because it's a long way and there's all these creatures in the way.
Yeah.
And then I needed to go to the top of Heber Mountain to talk to the warrior of the Rito people. Yeah. But I couldn't get up the mountain because it was super cold. So I had to get enough money to afford the downy snow gear to get up the mountain. So I had to go around doing a bunch of tasks just to get enough money to climb the mountain. And in this game, I get to Rito Village, and the gear's like half the price, and I just bought it all.
So, 2 notes. You are a lot better at the game because you've played Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So Tears of the Kingdom's easier.
Yeah.
Because of the exact same engine.
Except, like, it's clearly... like, it seems to start at a higher level. Like, all the bokoblins are black instead of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. So, game design-wise, okay. So...
Like, it's obviously a harder game in certain areas.
Yeah, but game design-wise, okay. So, you're a terrible person to ask this, so I'm going to say put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Okay.
So, the Downy gear,
Yeah.
right? So, like you said, you went through all that work to get the Downy gear.
Yeah.
Ganon bitch slaps you, and it all goes flying off into the void.
Yeah.
And you don't have the Downy gear anymore.
Yeah.
So, as
Gear breaking.
as I said, as someone who's not you, it's like, oh, I have to go through all this effort again to get the Downy gear. It was such a pain to get that.
As someone that played Breath of the Wild the first time around,
yes,
you feel like you already have it.
Yeah,
I see. So you're actually looking at Tears of the Kingdom as if it was DLC to... That's a very expensive DLC then.
Yeah, that's why I was saying $170 game.
See, I'm seeing it as a standalone game.
Yeah, it's not.
I think... Well, no, it is.
But a lot of the design choices, like them doing that, is very much on purpose because you get the Downy... You get those snow boots up in the top level to help you get through that quicker because, like, trying to get the snow gear was a pain.
I see what you're saying. So basically, they took all your stuff for a story reason, but they want to get it back to you as fast as possible so you can be
You
back...
still have to work a little bit for it, but not nearly as much.
So you can get back to where you were.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one of my main issues. It doesn't seem like...
No, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm
Yeah.
saying this is probably why it is, and that might be a bad choice.
So the underground, right? It like doubles the size of the map on its own, right? Like the whole underworld, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Besides being really interesting, there doesn't seem to be any reason to go down there. Like if your goal of the game is to win the game and kill Ganon, like there's not any reason to go down there.
Okay, so because we're kind of at the same point in the game.
Well, I don't want to spoil for people listening either, though.
No, this is a theory.
Yeah.
On my part, because I don't know the answer. Because I've also tried to avoid spoilers. I think Ganondorf is in the underworld.
Right. But
And so, what I think, because I haven't done this, but what I think is when you beat the 4 champions,
Yeah.
or like get them 3, then you have to find him in the underworld, and it's not going to be obvious where he is. And so you have to look for him in it.
And so if you've done more exploring, because right at the start of the game, they send you on that quest with Robbie to follow the statues. Yeah. Except it's an impossible quest because the enemies are too strong for you at that level. So you have to go back to the surface. Yeah. And so maybe that first quest is the last quest? Like one of those sort of things?
Yeah, it could be.
That would be...
Or even that, it's just training you to know how the underworld works. And then so when then you go down to fight Gandorf, it's doing that training will help you find him.
Because it almost feels like this sort of... Like it's a sort of clever system, but it feels almost tacked on where to get all the unusual upgrades, you need to be in the sky world. Yeah. But the resources for those upgrades are in the underworld. But the thing is, the underworld... The upgrades you get from the sky world, which you have to get the resources from the underworld, those upgrades seem to do very little. They make the game funner in a creative sense, but they don't do anything to make you stronger, really. Yeah. It's like, I can build a better airplane, but how is a better airplane going to kill Ganon? Unless...
You need to make an airplane to kill him.
Which would be pretty darn cool. Like I said, I chased Ferosh in an airplane, and I was able to shoot him from the airplane, and that was really fun. Yeah. If that's the final boss fight, that's amazing. Yeah. But actually, it's not impossible because, okay, the final power you get. I don't want to spoil, right? But you get the triple hand symbol, the clawed hand symbol power. The boss fight to get that power. Mm-hmm. That could very well be like the final boss fight. Yeah. Because I didn't think that was possible, even with the engine.
Have you kept chasing?
I think I know what you're talking about. I didn't, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Because I did run into something similar to what I think you're thinking of.
Because...
I have run into other Yiga clan members with interesting weapons. Would that work?
It's not exactly it, because...
Okay, well then let's side of caution, I guess.
Yeah, we'll side of caution.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, with that power, I didn't know the underground existed. I had no idea because...
You didn't see the gaping hole?
Okay, so I landed. I walked near one of those holes. And I got molested by evil hands. Right. It taught me, don't go near those holes. You die.
Those hands can be on the surface?
Yes.
First, it was like 40 hours of gameplay before I saw one of those things, and it was the most Ocarina of Time thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so...
I hated it.
Yeah, so I experienced that near those holes. And so when I then walked to the whole place, and I was interacting with, not Impa, what's her face? The Impa.
Pyrrha.
Yeah, Pyrrha, all those people. I actually completely missed Robbie in his quest, and so I didn't know he sent you down anywhere. And so what was happening, I was just playing the game, and then I came across this guy, I think in the village of the Eyedrop people.
The Sheikah.
Yeah, the Sheikah village. And there's this guy, and he's peering into one of the holes, and he says something about, we need to send an expedition down there. It's like, what on earth are you talking about? It's like a little dungeon down there, a cave? It's like, they're really dangerous. So I went up into the sky world because my mini-map was there, and I found the biggest hole possible. And I jumped off one of the islands and fell down into one of those holes. And it's like, alright, I avoided the Shao Hand, so okay, apparently you can get into these places. And it was absolutely dark, and I didn't know the mechanic of how to light them up. I was like, wait a minute, I have all these light bulb things, which I was like, okay, they're kind of weird, I haven't really used them. Like, I've lit up a few caves here and there with them, but I usually don't need to. So I start throwing these things around. It's like, what on earth is this? Like, I'm just in the center of this, like, field full of shadow, and there's these weird creatures. No idea what's going on. And then I see...
Let's not name the creatures or what they look like, just to,
And I see this weird, like, dragon-like thing.
No, I said let's not describe the... Oh, it's like...
I'm not describing a creature.
Okay.
This is, like, very early game thing. Okay. So I see this weird dragon-like thing. It looks like the bones of the earth of a dragon. Mm. And so I walk over to it and interact with it. It's like, this is how this works. Like, this is so cool. There's this whole place down here. Just...
The game's twice as big as I thought.
Actually, it's like, I didn't know.
So, I don't think many people will notice this, but there's all these weird like rock formations in the underworld. Yeah. And you can't... the underworld is stupidly big. I think it's too big in some senses. So you can't really see what they look like even. Yeah. But on the mini map, they become like these black blotches, like the pillars turn into the black blotches. One of them is shaped like a sort of hunk of meat on a bone, which is an item from the very first game that you can use to get past one of the bokoblins in the final dungeon.
Yeah.
So it's a reference to I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they have constellations in them.
And another, this is from the first, like in Breath of the Wild, they have Spectacle Mountain, which is where Ganondorf is in the very first game.
Yeah.
And then they also have the main menu screen from the first Legend of Zelda. If you go to Hatno Village and line it up, it's exactly the same. The waterfall.
So I didn't say this before, but you know the link you must find me?
Yeah.
So when I was looking this up and trying to figure something out, there's a Reddit post I came across, which is a guy found the place where she was standing, like the mountains in the background, and he's, "Where are you, princess?" Because he lined it perfectly to that scene.
Yeah, no, I think it's... Well, that scene's...
Like the picture-taking mini...
Yeah, no, that scene's... well, that was in the first trailer, I think, and it's like the Spring of Courage or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you never found any of the springs, it sounds like you were telling me.
Not in the first game.
The three, like the Spring of Wisdom, Courage, and Power.
No.
And you have to offer Dragon Scale to them to get a shrine, basically.
Yeah. No, I've only come across them later. And one of them's bugged because I keep giving it Farosh's bloody scale and it's not accepting it. I don't know what to do.
Well, I think I know what you're doing wrong. I think I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's...
I might be giving it the wrong dragon scale, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. And I think some of them require claws as well.
Yeah.
But the... Now, what also might happen, I guess, is... there's clearly at least one more thing to do after you've solved the calamities. It's so tricky. Like, you don't want to second-guess the developer the whole game, right? But it's also a... It's the problem with open-world games.
Yes.
Is... You don't know if it's an open world game where you can trust the developer or you have to make your own fun. And the problem is that there's like 3 good open world games.
4.
There's Morrowind, Breath of the Wild, and like Outer Wilds.
I'm going to add a 4th to that. You haven't played it. Elden Ring.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Elden Ring. And the thing about Elden Ring is it solves my entire problem with Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, it does.
Because if the game is hard enough, it solves the whole problem.
Yeah.
And I've from playing Dark Souls, I assume that it is like the developers seem very good at being just hard enough that almost anyone can win.
Yeah.
But that you have to try.
Yes.
Like Dark Souls, people say it's a super hard game. It's not really. Like it's hard, but it's like it's as hard as like 75% of people or 90% of people can do at their absolute limit.
Yeah.
But it's not like a game like Legend of Grimrock where 75% of people can't beat this game or something like that.
See, one of the things, like Soul-like games for me, where people are like, oh, they're super hard. And I actually didn't have that perspective on, like, I've only played one. I didn't have that perspective. And I think the reason why I didn't have that perspective is,
Or it's not fighting Tarvok in Baldur's Gate 1. Sarvok, yeah.
Well, so it's partly that, but it's even at that idea of... So the video games I grew up playing was Baldur's Gate, Dungeon Lords...
Ocarina of Time,
a bunch of old...
Super Mario World.
Yeah,
There's a hard game.
Yeah, Super Mario World, a bunch of SNES games, a bunch of the Next Generation, a bunch of DS games, and, well, Super DS games, and DS games.
Game Boy.
Yeah, sorry, Game Boys. Yeah.
Game
a bunch
Boy Advance.
of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. And there was no kid gloves with those games.
Nintendo Hard used to be a saying.
Yeah, they were hard games. And, like, for me, like, you have a friend. I was always amazed that he beat video games. Like, he beat that video game, he beat this video game, he would beat Nintendo games. Like, he beat Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And like, when we would play it with him, he would talk about, like, okay, we're coming up to this boss here. Or, like, we would do these things where it'd be me, you, and him. We'd be over at his house or our dad's house, and we'd be playing Donkey Kong
Country, yeah.
Yeah, the 2-player one.
Yeah.
And so me and you would be playing.
They're all 2-player.
Yeah. Me and you would be playing. And we just couldn't be a section. And so I would give the controller to him, and then the two of you together would be able to beat it. And it was just situations like that. It's like, how on earth does he beat these games? And then I felt, this was years later, I felt like the biggest achievement for me at that time, one of the biggest achievements, was beating Metroid Fusion. Like, I actually beat the game. I just, like, really got into it. Like, tried to beat the game because I got on a certain point to it. It's like, I went through all the bosses, and I fought the final boss over and over and over and over and over again. And that boss is really, really, really hard. And so I finally beat the game. And so it's like, that was my thought. This is the level that games are at. And then it's like, this is very similar to Dark Souls-like games. Like, they're maybe, like, a little longer in some cases, and maybe just that bit harder, but it's not really all that much more.
So that friend you're talking about, one time he was hanging out with me, and then I had to go to piano lessons, and so he started up a new save file of Donkey Kong Country 2, the first game, the second game. No, the third game it was Donkey Kong Country 3, whatever it was called. Well, I went off to piano. My piano lessons are half an hour, and it takes me about 10 minutes to bike there and 10 minutes to bike back. He almost beat the entire game in the time I was gone at piano lessons. And one of our favorite games, him and I, is Tropical Freeze. Donkey Kong Country Returns Tropical Freeze. And from what I've heard and my own experience, basically everyone thinks this game is much harder than Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And if you do everything, it is insanely hard.
Yeah.
But it's very possible. And like Super Mario World, like the later levels, even Super Mario 3D World, like I don't know if you've seen 3D World What Happens, but if you beat the game and get every star, there's 8 worlds, and no, there's 7 worlds, and if you beat every world, you unlock an 8th world. And then if you get all the stars on all 8 worlds on every level, you unlock another 8 worlds. And then if you beat all those worlds with perfect stars, you unlock the hard levels. And then if you beat all of those, you unlock like 3 more levels. And it's insane how far this game goes, and just, you thought you were done. Here's something harder.
Even on difficulty level, I mean, I wasn't even aware that it's considered very hard.
Yeah.
But I had seen a bunch of media of it, and so I wanted to try the actual game of Toho. And so one of my favorite songs is UN Was Her.
Yeah.
And ages ago, someone called that Death Waltz in a reference to an Impossible piano piece someone wrote. And they overproduced it in basically GarageBand or whatever software that basically like overproduced Was Her and called it Death Waltz.
Yeah.
So I played the game, which is the Toho game in the series, which has that song in it. The thing is, I would never ever hear that song.
Yeah.
Because, so in that game, it's a bullet hell game, but it's considered like, it's the pinnacle of bullet hell games. Like, if you want a bullet hell game, you play Toho.
Yeah.
And so if you beat the game without taking damage or something, then you get to go into a new stage, which is the secret boss. If you beat the secret boss, which is harder than the rest of the game, you get to fight the true boss. And that is her song, is UN Was Her. And apparently, like, it's a nightmare to beat the secret boss to get to her. And then, like, you'll barely get a chance to hear that song before she murders you. And it's like... And Toho is so hard. Like, it's definitely a different skill level than a lot of games. But it's like, this is a game where it's not even you can be good at the game and beat it. It's you need to know, I think they're called safe zones.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know where you can put your little avatar, or you just lose.
Dark Souls is kind of like that too, in a way. And I'm not saying Dark Souls is an easy game.
No, it's not an easy game.
I'm just saying that it's on par with all the other greats that trust the player.
Yeah.
Like, I was playing Heroes of Might and Magic 2 recently, and I had to fight... Now, I won't say I'm, like, amazing at Heroes of Might and Magic, but strategy games are kind of my thing if I'm good at a genre. And the price of loyalty final boss with the free heroes AI is so stupidly powerful that it's not even like Dark Souls. Every fight is perfect, basically, right? Yeah. Like, they're hard, but they're never too hard. It's like perfect. This wasn't fun. This was just unbelievably give you RSI in a turn-based game hard.
Yeah.
Because to beat this thing, what I ended up doing was getting units immune to one of the strongest spells in the game, which is like this. It's called Elemental Storm. It just like kills everything on the map.
Armageddon does.
Elemental Storm. There was no units on that map immune to Armageddon.
Oh, okay.
But Phoenixes are immune to Elemental Storm.
Oh, okay.
So Elemental Storm's like a weaker version of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would attack him with my Phoenixes, which are the fastest unit in the game, so I get to go first. Cast Elemental Storm, and then retreat. rinse and repeat. And then I did the math, and I'd have to do that like 700 times. And so I was like, okay, this is stupid. I'm not doing this. So I developed a new strategy. And I was like, okay, if I do this, it'll take me 100 times. Okay. So I developed a new strategy. And I ended up, pro tip for people in the future that want to beat this boss, get the biggest stack of the strongest archers you can. With, let's say, titans are possible. So you get, let's say, 70 or 80 titans, if you can manage it. At least 50, probably. And then what you do is you stick them in the middle of your army, and everything else is phoenixes. And then the moment the battle starts, because you have the speed advantage, you surround your titans with phoenixes. And then you use your one spellcast for the round to either bless the titans or give them Dragon Slayer. And then, when their 1,000 Bone Dragons comes and kills all your phoenixes in one attack, the only spell you cast from then on is Resurrect on your phoenixes, so that the dragon can't hurt your titans, and then your titan hammers away at the dragons again and again and again until they run out of lightning bolts, and then you surrender and run away, and you can kill maybe 300 at a time that way.
So, yeah, on that thought of the strategy game, I've been doing the evil campaign of Age of Wonders 1.
Yeah.
And so I've developed a strategy which kind of only works in Age of Wonders 1 of all the Age games. Which is, my strongest magic is air.
Yeah.
My second strongest is fire. So with the air magic, I've given my hero flying, and I've cast the strongest wind spell in the game, which doubles the speed of all people with flying. So my hero has 10 defense. When I cast fire, they actually have 11 defense, but your stats can only go up to 10. I cast a fire spell on myself, which lowers your defense and increases your attack, but my defense is still 10. So I have about 10 attack, and I deal 8 damage per hit. But even before that, because stats go up throughout the game, my strategy was hold on to one city to produce enough money to give me some backup units. Find an enemy leader and kill them with my own leader.
Yeah.
And because my leader can fly and they're very fast, they're almost indestructible. Like, they can be worn down over time because things get critical hits. So hit will kill them.
There's a reason assassinations don't work in any of the other games.
Yeah. And actually, at the start of the game, the evil campaign, you start with 2 orc assassins. Unfortunately, I lost them throughout the game. But before I had the flying magic to that power level, their wall climbing is how I did that. They would climb up walls and shoot poison darts. And I was so sad when I lost my orc assassin, because that's how I was waiting. I was like, all right, my leader can fly now. But sometimes it's literally, I save game because the Sand People's boss, the Azarax?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Azarac boss had first strike and hit almost as hard as me, had almost as good defense as me, and had slightly more HP. And so I literally just had to reload the game 3 times because he would just end up killing me. And that's when after that I increased my health a whole bunch just to increase it. But it's like I'm on, I think, the second to last final level of the evil campaign. And like the AI just has so many more resources than you. And the idea is meant to be you slowly build up and push out from your starting zone. But literally what I'm doing is I'm running around and killing armies with my singular hero, taking cities, and just getting the few turns of gold they give me to keep running around while my main base is producing incarnates, so that I can have a swarm of incarnates overwhelm the map, because incarnates, I think, are the strongest unit in the game.
The Dominator, maybe?
The Dominator can be hurt.
Avatars.
I think avatars are like a more rounded, better fighter, and so they'll win in more situations. But so elves, it's kind of sad, elves versus incarnates, because there is I think 3 units in the elven army that can hurt an incarnate. It's their wizards, their mages.
Yeah.
The
Unicorn?
Oh, maybe the unicorn can too. So there's 4. So there's the unicorn.
The Earth Mother thingy?
No, she can't.
Oh.
And so what I did against on the 3rd to final level, there's an elf city you have to take down, and it was too dangerous for our hero to attack her. However, there's a beautiful, beautiful wind spell, which is called Tornado, which it lets you scatter our army into pieces, and so 50% of the army gets picked up and separated. And so I did is I cast it on their like big blob, and it sent out the 2 Earth Mothers.
But you said a single incarnate.
No, it was a few more than the Earth Mothers, but they were with it. So the incarnate went in there and possessed every single unit.
Can you retreat in Age of Wonders 1?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
This was very important, actually, because the chance of an incarnate possessing one of those things is basically 0. So I had the incarnate with its 2 damage per hit kill all the other elves. And then I retreated from the battle, attacked again, and auto-combated. And because auto-combat, it did like 200 turns and the incarnate took over.
I was wondering if they could have retreated.
No, they can't.
Can't?
Only the attacker can retreat.
I thought the attacked army can retreat as well.
No, it's
Oh,
only
no.
the attacker.
The attacked army, if they don't get hurt for 5 turns, it ends the battle.
That was later games.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they add that.
Right.
But yeah, so the incarnates like situationally, if if a siege is about to happen in the first game,
Yeah.
and you kill the battering ram, then the AI has to give up.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I do with the incarnates is I have them with my hero, and my hero will just go and snipe the units that can hurt them. Then my hero runs away because my hero is super fast, and then the incarnates can just.
You say that, but there's always the weird angles with the wall where if you stand just right.
Yeah, I know. It's the AI has to give up though.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's a bug that you can shoot over the wall, but
yeah,
you can just sort of angle it.
Well, one of the really weird things is if you're underground, you actually can't fly over walls. If you have flying, you have to use crawling.
Oh.
But you can still siege with a flying unit against them, but you can't get in. And so I literally have to just sit there and cast Evaporate or the Fire from the Earth spell. I was actually thinking about it. Like attack spell-wise, I think number 2 has the strongest battle spells, but number 1 by far has the strongest world spells.
Trying to think. Number 2 is like Prismatic Spray or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That's the most powerful spell in the Dying Earth series, apparently.
Hmm.
It's Prismatic Spray.
It's not to be underestimated in Dungeons and Dragons, but because I think one of the better fighting spells in Age of Wonders 1 is Chain Lightning.
Yeah.
It hits 4 targets and has a chance of paralyzing for a turn.
I like
And then the Evaporate is just really good because it has super high attack and deals a lot of damage. So my hero is actually being killed by Evaporate because even though I have 10 defense, it has like 8 attack or something, and so it can hit them quite often.
like what's it called? It shoots like 5 boulders.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And then I also like Geyser. It seems to do a decent amount of damage, but it's all physical damage.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of what are the Reapers in number 1? Because they have physical immunity, so they're very powerful.
Yeah, they're very...
Is it only the Shadows that do? I think the Reapers do as well.
No, the Reapers do as well. I haven't really encountered them in the campaign. I'm saying for the campaign right now, it seems that Incarnates are really strong. I mean, all the high tiers, like Dragons, are absurd.
Dark Elves get Shadows as well, right? Or is that the end?
The Dark Elves get Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the scarier thing than the Earth Mothers that they had, she had 3 gold dragons. I was like, all right, I need my own dragons to fight these gold dragons. There's a wizard tower. I went to it. I had the spell Summon Gold Dragon. I'm pure evil. I can't summon gold dragons. They'd have no common cause with me and leave my army immediately.
You can scare things into staying with you if your army's strong enough. And then nymphs will keep things in your army, but only if they've dominated them, possibly?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the coding is actually absurd for the first game.
It's a mess. I was talking...
It's very buggy, but it's like the
No,
nymphs,
it's very cool.
Yeah, the nymphs can do that, and the incarnates, when they have a target possessed, they can actually possess a different target.
But, yeah, when it was Glow-Eye and I think we're talking to one of the developers, like chatting online, and we were saying, why didn't you make the incarnates for number 3? And he was like, we don't know how we made it for number 1. The code of that game is a horrible, buggy mess,
Yeah.
and it's barely holding together.
Yeah. Well, it's crashed quite a few times when playing the campaign.
But it's very neat.
Yeah.
Like just the sheer freedom of the game.
One of the things so on this map, there's those stupid towers that shoot blasts. I was like, you know, I took a few of them. I was like, I'm going to hold on to these. These could be useful later. Then I forget about them, and Dire Penguin walks onto them, and then my city, which has like my main blobbit, has half its units get wiped out. So I'm just sending my hero around now and systematically raising them because I can't stand the armies just getting hit by those blasts, so I just have to destroy them.
Speaking of number 1s, like on battle, world spells.
Yeah.
Like they have all the ones like Flood and whatnot that just
Raise Mountain, Firewall, Evil Force, Good Force.
So they have all that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But then you look at just like Sunray and whatnot.
Yeah.
where you cast it 3 times on any army in the game and it's dead.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, the spells they have.
Yeah, I remember one of the things that I did, because you know how the tower can activate either when its cooldown's done
Or for mana. Yeah.
or for mana? I had 1,000 mana in the bank, and there's just this army the Azracs had in their capital, this army I couldn't beat. It was huge. It was tons of basic units, but as early on my hero wasn't strong. I didn't have very strong armies. And so I basically tricked them into having their whole army cluster around one of my units. And so they killed it. And I just cast the fire thing 4 times, the firestorm, and wiped out about 95% of all their units.
Yeah, those
Also, how the trees actually get disintegrated and then they regrow. There's the burnt trees, then they regrow over time to green trees. But if they're a burnt tree, then a leprechaun actually can't hide in them, and it has to wait for them to be green again, and then the leprechaun's invisible in them.
was I gonna make the towers for number 3?
You're trying to think of a way to do it.
Yeah, I remade the Evil Woods and Holy Woods.
Yeah.
But I don't know if towers would be tricky.
Yeah. There's also just the wall of fire. Like, you can put a wall of fire down, things can't pass through it.
I could probably do that in number 3. I might have done that.
Yeah, it literally just creates this patch of impassable terrain.
Yeah.
Unless you're stupid golden dwarves.
Have you played number 4?
Yes.
Does it have that same... Because they said it was meant to be like the seasons, right? And this was meant to be a return to summer? Or spring or whatever it was. It was meant to be as powerful as number 1, right?
The wizards are very strong. Like, the wizard lords. They're very strong. But they feel like juiced up number 3 wizards. Like, it's... Basically, you take number 3 wizards, and you just, like, double their power level. Whereas they still don't quite reach the mages of game 1. There is, like, other things in it. Number 4 is just kind of plays like Civ, which is why it's so popular. And like the magic's really weird. Like what? Okay, actually no. Magic can turn battles because there's these stupid little properties you can build. So basically, Civ 6 has the economic zones.
Yeah.
Like you can build on the land you spread to.
Yeah.
So this has as well. So you have your buildings you can build in your city, but there's also buildings that you can build on tiles. So you can build tile improvements. And there's like these regions which are tiles.
Yeah.
So one of those tiles is a spell jammer. And it stops all magic from being cast within that region.
The empire building mod for number 3 actually adds that to the game.
Yeah. So the spell jammer, the difference that it can make to a fight is kind of crazy. So one of the evil spells it's the demon spell. So it's one of the higher tier demon spells.
There's spelljammers in number 1 or 2?
2 sort of has them.
Yeah.
You can influence other people's zones of controls. Number 1, you can put a spell immunity dome over your city.
But there's like a little... It looks like a tripod with a ball on it, and you can build it in 1 or 2, I think. And
That's
it prevents
number 2.
It prevents spells from being cast within a tile around it or something.
So in number 1, there's the bubble, which has the symbol for the game.
Yeah.
Which is the 3 circles spiraling inwards, and then there's a glowing pink shield.
Or maybe it's the empire building mod in number 3 that does it.
It's probably taking that from the pink shield from number 1, which is the bubble, which everything immune. But this makes the whole empire. Anyway, so number 4, there's a spell which your leaders can cast spells into battles that are not there, like the number 2.
Yeah.
So, but the spells are, I think they're double priced or something. But there's a lot of ways to go around, and you can have absurd power levels.
Yeah.
And also, the high wizards can cast 2 spells in a turn with using one of their powers.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this evil spell lets you summon an incarnation of your hero into the battlefield. So even if they're not there, you can basically summon them. And they're forced onto themselves casting spells. And like if you give them the right chain of upgrades and augments and enchantments, because that's like the absurd like you just put enchantment after enchantment after enchantment on a unit in number 1, and then it becomes a god of death.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what number 4 is like. Like you can put enchantments. So when they add the dragon lords into number 4, where you can play as a dragon as your god emperor,
Yeah.
the dragons literally are an army by themselves, like more so than anything else. And so in my way as winning is I just send like a little scouting force for us, like, oh, there's your army. And so I just like send a pig at them. And then the pig would summon a dragon onto the battlefield.
You could do that in number 2 as well. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then the dragon would annihilate their army. But then they have one of the stupid spelljammers up. And it's like, all right, I'm glad. Oh, you have a spelljammer. Okay, I have to like send raiding parties across your lands to pillage this tile so you can no longer spelljam me.
So it is a bit like number one, at least.
It's a bit like it's a mix.
Like 1, 2, and 3.
It feels like a mix of all three games, and then a really healthy daub of Civilization thrown on it.
That was my biggest problem with number 2, actually. I was like, wait, this is Civilization.
Yeah, I mean,
And number 3 even more so, really.
it's their most popular game, and I was reading on the forums it was actually kind of funny. So like BB was there, and like a few of the other people, I can't remember their names, but like all the people who you talked with.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was, but one was like, well, this game's clearly popular, and we're a bunch of old men who don't like the changes, but we still have number 3 to play.
Yeah.
And he's like, and clearly this was the right choices. It's a shame, though, that they didn't stick to their roots as much as they could have. But why satisfy us when they could get so much more?
Yeah. It's the old lesson that all the Heroes Might and Magic players know.
Yep.
Yeah. And Jolly Joker, at least, also plays Heroes Might and Magic. But,
oh, Jolly Joker plays both?
Yeah.
Okay, it was Jolly Joker then that I was saying that. I was thinking Jolly Joker. No, Jolly Joker's only on Heroes, but...
Yeah, no, he plays both.
Yeah, it was Jolly Joker saying that whole thing. I guess that's why he probably said that.
Yeah.
He knows.
I think Jolly Joker actually worked on Heroes 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. As the translator. He didn't get to be the one adding all the bugs and
the bugs.
letting the AI watch the cutscenes.
No, and the bugs.
Yeah, all the spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Irwin. Yeah, you know about that bug from number 7?
Yeah, that's why it took so long.
It was like, why do the AI turns take 15 minutes? Oh, they're watching every cutscene.
Yeah.
How is that possible? AI just really likes the art.
So, yeah, I've been playing Heroes of My Magic 2 and like listening to that music bit. I was like, man, that's really good music. When I was playing Age of Empires 1 last night, I was in a Discord call with my friends and they were playing CSGO. So one of the things in CSGO is actually really important.
CS2.
Yeah, they were playing CS2.
Because CSGO is shut down, I think.
Yeah, they were playing number 2. But one of the things that's really important is to listen for enemies' footsteps.
Mm.
And I caught myself before I do it, but I was going along, and March of the Halflings started playing. And like there was a few other songs, and I was just like muttering under my breath along with them. They were just so good.
Have you ever listened to Fortnite's music?
No.
I'm curious.
Victory Royale. Something.
Okay, it's the same composer, I assume, right? As Age of Wonders.
Would it?
Well, he's Epic Games' main composer. Like, he did all of the Unreal games and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
He's one of the top industry composers. I have no idea why he also does Age of Wonders.
Well, probably because he did them back in the day.
But he was like big back then even. Like, because he was Unreal Tournament.
Yeah.
And that game was huge back in the day.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I haven't listened to any Fortnite music.
I played the game. It was strange because it was during an event where they had like mechs you could get into, and so I was like, all right, I'm sort of getting into this game. This game's kind of interesting. And then, like entry investment in like the multiplayer game where like they've added so many gimmicks that you show up and
you're like, I'm completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, so I was just like playing the game. I was like, all right, and I got like killed, and I started again. Started again, and I was like, oh, I'm doing really well this time. And then a mech landed on me, and I just lost instantly. So, no, I'm done.
That's actually something about Age of Wonders 4. Age of Wonders 3 started as a great game, and then it got way better with free updates, and then the DLCs were there's rarely been DLCs that good.
Yeah.
Like, even if you look back at old games when they got these massive DLCs, they weren't that good typically. Like, I'm trying to think. The only other game I can think of that got equivalently good DLCs was Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
Yeah. No, so they are doing free updates. Their latest update is
right, but they own Paradox now, so there's probably like 5 million DLCs.
It's actually, they are restraining it slightly. People are still complaining because it's like a hybrid between Paradox and their DLC thing.
Well, Triumph, perfect. Yeah. 2 DLCs that massively improve the game.
It's not quite the levels of Planetfall.
Yeah.
Which, like, I just didn't even bother with that. Like, they're slightly more restrained. So, but their Watcher is a free update, and that's a massive overhaul of the AI because the AI was really bad, and like they changed a bunch of victory conditions. And their DLCs have been alright, although some people are saying these DLCs were done before the game released, and now you're just like attaching it to price tag. And that's definitely what some of them slightly feel like.
Well, I know for sure that they would give you extra customization if you sign up to the newsletter before the game came out.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
There's definitely certain levels that I don't like to it. Like, that's one of the weird things. So a survey came out. They're asking for people like a quick survey on the game, and it's like, how many hours have you played? It's like, oh, I've barely played this game. And I looked at my Steam profile of like 60 hours, and it's like, I've barely played this game. No, I haven't played it that much. I don't like it. It's not as good as the other ones.
Leonard Sass,
That's actually that's actually my feeling. It's not as good as the other ones. I haven't played it as much, and that's like, I have 60 hours. And how do I have 60 hours in it?
But yeah, Leonard Sass, like, even if he's been corrupted by Paradox, he is a fantastic game designer.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to think of a bad game he's made. Age of Wonders 2.
It's not bad though.
It's kind of bad. I would never.
Actually, speaking of DLC, Shadow Magic.
Well, that doesn't count. Like, I would never play Age of Wonders 2 again.
Well, that's because you have Shadow Magic.
Maybe I would, just to relive the gods, just to, if I really hated myself.
They added them back.
No, like, I would play Age of Wonders 2 just to see the gods.
They're in 4.
Tweaked, I hope.
They are tweaked. But they do give you those quests. You're like, really?
Wait, who are the gods at this point? In number 2, they were the heroes from number 1.
They're like cosmic forces. It's more like it's a mix between the gods and cosmic events. But I just remember number 2.
Cosmic events in 3 are so cool. Oh man, I forgot.
Yeah, they added them in. They weren't there.
No, it's just Age of Wonders 3 is such a good game.
Yeah.
I just, I don't play it and I don't think about it. But whenever I remember, I'm like, you can do that and that and that.
Number 2, one of the things I remember is, so the god of war. So I built his temple. And he told me, go attack this little outpost. I was like, alright, I'll get to it.
And now attack this titan.
No, it wasn't that. I'll get to it. And like, time was ticking on. I was like, alright, my army's strong enough, I'll go attack the house. I went for it, and the AI's army showed up and attacked my army. And I had to retreat, and eventually I beat them. I was like, you did not defeat them quick enough. You've displeased me. And he summoned 3 non-incarnate, the blue guys.
Yeah, avatars?
Yeah, he summoned 3 avatars by my capital. And they walked in and destroyed it.
I don't remember which god it was. I think it was the god of war, because he's the one you want to avoid. Yeah. Like the god of wisdom. Like there's one god that's slightly safer than the others. Maybe it's defense. But I was out doing stuff, and he's like, kill this titan. And he put it right next to my base. How do I kill a titan at the start of the game? And I just lost my capital. Oh, thanks. Because you just put a titan next to my capital. I will
say, Siege in number 1 versus Siege in number 2. Number 2 Siege is vastly improved of being besieged and attacking.
Number 2 Siege is the castles are so powerful. Number 2.
I know, I love them.
They're ridiculously powerful in number 2.
I know.
It's like, never attack a castle, you'll just die.
Yeah, I know. I really like them.
I think number 3 has the best siege of any like, it's better than Heroes of Might and Magic. Yeah. Like, it's perfect.
No, number 4's is honestly a pale compare. Like, they try to do some interesting things, but number 4's siege is such a pale comparison to number 3's.
It's hard to be better than 3's.
But they could have just copied it.
Yeah. Like Heroes of Might and Magic, castles, like, you just go through them like they're butter. You have. But in number 3, they're all the walls are walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, in number 1, the wall's a wall unless you have wall breaking, and that's wet tissue paper.
Or you have wall climbing, or
yeah.
Although in number 3, if you have a rogue hero that gives the whole army wall climbing, then it's a different story.
Well, so I got attacked by a Yeti and like a huge army of frostlings. So as Legolas shoot him down, literally my dark elves were firing arrows at the Yeti, and the Yeti's just like walking forward, and it got to my wooden wall, and I was at half health. It crashed a hole through it. I was like, it's over, and then the frostlings just poured in and annihilated all my dark elf archers. It was literally that feeling. It's like, shoot him down!
And then number 2 would be Prismatic Tower. Melt them. Oh, and now Stars Fire. Oh, and now Anti-Magic Shield. Activate. Now Magic Walls. Activate.
Alright, so we've broken through the wall. Let's take a step through the gate. Oh, there's a death barrier in the gate, and our units have died.
Number 2. I hope number 4 has this. Because in number 2, the coolest thing they did was city upgrades, where like elves could make their cities invisible, and
Number 4 kind of does that.
Other people might have had cool stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even remember because the elves was so cool.
We didn't really play all that much of Shadow Magic as well.
Oh yeah, number 2 didn't have that. That was Shadow Magic, yeah.
Shadow Magic has the really cool thing. So the Azaracs have the fighting pit, and the fighting pit gives you the avatar. So and if someone attacks you while you have the fighting pit, it gives all your units improved attack. Well, one of the things that I actually really noticed playing number 1 though. So you know when you're playing Heroes of Might and Magic 3,
Yeah.
and you have a Gorgon, and you go pick up a monster manual, you open up, and there's a Gorgon.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. And you start looking at number 3's monsters.
And they're all just based on D&D.
Yeah. I've started seeing that
Yeah.
in Age of Wonders. Like, it's not even like, oh, they're similar. It's like, no, they are identical.
Wait a minute. No, the Basilisk in number 1 is identical to the Basilisk in Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
Like, they're the same thing.
Yes.
How's that even... Because basilisks are little snakes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's several cases like that.
Huh, I never thought about that.
Yeah. Like, just the way the unit's designed, and you look at it, and you look, and you're like, huh.
I kind of wish
Even sometimes down... Alright. Biggest problem with number 4. Actually, this... Like, there's a lot of other problems. This is my biggest problem. So, they have... you can customize things. And people love this customization. I think it's a false good. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyways... so you can have like your frostlings, and then they can become demonic frostlings, and then you can choose the barbarian culture for a frostling. So you can have barbarian frostling with the axe, and he's got demon wings. Now, in doing this, they had to eliminate the little information blurbs on units that tell you their story.
Right.
So they do have some units, however, which are just summons without those. So like you can summon this jester demon, and you can summon. They also don't have those information blurbs. And honestly, every other game's had those.
Really?
Number 3 didn't have them. They updated it, so it did.
I know number 3 does. I had to write so many of those things. Yeah.
Number 1 had them.
Sort of, yeah. You'd click on it and you'd get this story about the characters running, screaming through the...
Yeah, no, it's a long story. You click
and you
on
get the little painting.
Yeah, you click on the info page, and it's a long story about them.
And you get a painting and everything, yeah.
Yeah, actually, Karogs are back in number 4. But they're an independent unit. But they're still terrifying.
Still super fast. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are weird. Is that like a Dutch goblin or something?
I don't know, because I'm sad they went more with number 2's art style for the Karog instead of number 1's.
Does it look... Number 2 is the ugliest game in the series. Does it look like number 2? Or...
It looks like number 4 with a paint job.
Number 3, you mean?
Yeah, it looks like number 3 with a paint job. It looks a little better.
Okay. Yeah, because...
Like, there's some artistic choices I don't like they made. That's just me personally. I don't like the artistic choices they decided to make. Like, the Fairy Town, they look like someone had too much creative license and moved away from the fantasy of fairies and made them like these weird nature creatures.
I think...
That's my own
I think
opinion.
art direction-wise, number 1's the best.
Yes.
With the exception of everything that came out with the... what was it called? Frozen Lords DLC?
Yeah, the Necromancers.
Because... I don't know what they did, but like the Grim Reaper is the best model they ever made. Like, it looks so good.
Yeah, no, the Grim Reaper...
Compared to the others.
The Reaper number 4 is so ugly.
No.
Yeah, no, it's really sad.
Because it's the best looking unit in number 3.
Yeah, no, like, you've seen the art style of like the Shattered Wizards and like that sort of weird, like almost heavy metal, death metal vibe.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that art style sort of spiraled throughout the game. And things just don't look as good. Like,
I have a problem with...
But that is actually another one of my issues. Things just don't look as good.
I've been doing all the...
Number 3 is so pretty, actually. Like the elves, the elven acolytes and the elven mages, like the white hoods that they have and the flowing robes around them and like their lightning stuff, like they look really good.
Yeah, I prefer number 1, I think. But yeah. I've been playing...
Number 1 is the best sound effects.
I've been playing... a lot of Price of Loyalty, like Here's My Magic 2.
Yeah.
And like its campaigns, not just the Price of Loyalty campaign.
Yeah.
And I have this issue where I'm also working on a Heroes of My Magic 3 map, because I had this inspiration to make a Heroes 3 map. But I can't stand to look at Heroes 3, because I've just been playing so much Heroes 2, and it's so good looking. Like, game visuals peaked in 1995.
Yeah.
You got Super Mario World, you got...
So, Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is a good looking game. Like, I think about my memory, it says Lost it's a good looking game. But
It makes me want to vomit when I think about it.
yeah.
Like, I feel ill when I think about it. I'm like,
Heroes
"Ugh,
2,
I don't like
so you know the pile of gems, like the gems.
it.
But, like, the way that their art director did the pixel art, even though it's pixel art, Heroes 2, it looks like a field of gems. Like, Heroes 2 looks like a pile of multicolored gems that are aesthetically put together to make the best visuals possible.
It feels like you're playing a quilt
Yeah.
or a mosaic
Yeah, it's like a mosaic.
or a stained glass window. But it's like this... It's like...
Stained glass, I think that's the best one. Yeah,
You know what
stained glass.
you know what it's like? It's like looking at a fire. Like, you know, just the peace you feel from looking at a fire, the beauty of the flames. That's Heroes 2. You have this screen that is just beauty.
Yeah.
And then there's games that try to be realistic, and the art doesn't hold up like a year later. You look at games like Skyrim, where they tried to be realistic, but there's also great art direction in the landscapes, and Skyrim still kind of holds up.
There's a video I want to show you beforehand, which actually touched on this. I think I'll show it to you afterwards, possibly.
Let's see. Yeah.
So, but I'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
It's by Kroby Cat.
Yeah.
And it's what is it called? Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
So I actually played Resident Evil 4 Remake, and it wasn't for me, but as a social game, I thought it was alright. So, Kroby Cat fashion, he doesn't speak, he just compares. He shows scene after scene after scene.
Yeah. Like with Cyberpunk and Lego City.
Yeah, but he's just comparing the two games. And video games lost their soul. That's what it's called, actually.
And what are the two games he's comparing again? The remake and the original, or
Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Remake.
Mm.
Or it might be Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 3
Right.
Remake. But he's comparing, like, they actually lost their soul. Like, even, so, Resident Evil 4, it's like, oh, the art's all updated and the game looks so much prettier. And so, in the village, so one of the settings is the village. So in Resident Evil Remake, the village is sort of like this grungy village. And I've seen that same grungy village in plain Shadow of War. Like the orc shacks. Like, it's there, it's like, oh, this grungy village. You look at the art direction and what they decided to do in the non-remake. And that village is distinct. The graphics aren't as good, but it looks better. It's like, it's put together. They put these pieces, they had background sets. Instead of like, we don't want to render background, so we're just going to clutter up mountains higher and higher size and have these rock claves so you feel like enclosed there. It's like, no, you can look outside the village and see like their painted backgrounds, but there's an art direction in that painted background that they put up there. Sure, you can't go there, but it's there, and like, there's a goofiness to it. But that's a style instead of like, oh, we're trying to make this realistic and like, here's the art direction that's going to be realistic and gritty and dark. It's like, no, there is this goofy, sinister nature to the original, which makes things more scary than reality can make them, and makes things more real than reality can make them if you're trying to play a video game.
I'm going to say not all games have lost their soul.
No, not all
like,
games.
well, you look at Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Or you look at Wild Frost. It's a little indie card game. It's got a beautiful art style.
Yeah.
Or you look at, I don't know if you've seen, what's it called? Phasma Regalia? Everyone loves the art style of that game. Have you seen that? It's like a Super Mario World 3D with a goat.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But
It's I'll have to show you a picture of it sometime.
okay. But like, maybe it's like, well, triple game companies that have lost their soul.
Yeah, maybe.
Or something. Like, certain, but it's just like, this remake, like...
The remakes have for a lot, yeah.
But, like, they don't understand why the game looked like. They're just, oh, we're upgrading the graphics. They don't actually understand the reason why things were. And so when they update them and change it, they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, a lot of games, like Dead Space, they got rid of a lot of the original stuff, or they got rid of the subtle stuff and made it more...
Yeah, well...
Or Diablo. That's a huge crime.
Well, so... In the comparison, so one of the things he also compares how characters act. So one of the things is the main character of Resident Evil 4 or 3, I can't remember which one, but anyways, he's hyper competent. He is like, that's his thing. That's why he's sent to save the president's daughter.
Yeah.
He's a hyper confident person. And to get like the differences between certain cutscenes, they have to emasculate him in the remake slightly, or like make him slightly less confident where he was, or so they can get like a cheap joke in about whatever he's doing. Where in the first game, it's not even like, oh, he's this like super Chad bro sort of guy. It's, he actually has a character that's not every other character in video games. Like, he's a very interesting character. He's hyper confident. There's the woman in the red dress, he loves her. but she's a foreign spy, and so like there's this sort of cat and mouse, James Bond sort of thing going on. And the remake, they kind of get rid of that. It's like, it's there, but they're just doing it because it was there before, but they completely they put in like dirty sink water.
Yeah.
That whole thing. And there's this Spaniard who's super stereotypical Spaniard in the first game, and he's also like a rogue. Like he's a swashbuckler rogue sort of character. And he makes some incredibly rude comments about the president's daughter in the original. And it's really funny. And it's his character, is who he is. That's what he would do. But they have to, of course, get rid of that for the remake. And so, like, that detail there, like, they get rid of those things there. And, like, it's not even like, oh, you're changing. Like, no, that character is important to the actions he does throughout the game. Because it's more than just writing of the quips and the line they say. It's, this is why this guy does the things he does. And him speaking like that lets you know, and it reflects the person he is. And so, trying to whitewash or censor that, like, damaged it. But also, there's more to it than that. Like, Napoleon, he's like this midget. And he's like this grotesque mutated midget. And they made him more grotesque and less silly in the remake. And so it's more serious. But it kind of ruins the whole creature that he was. Which he is, his silliness is a part of the grotesqueness.
I think even if it was bad and offensive, like objectively offensive, let's say, there wasn't even for whatever reason, our society as a whole was like, this is offensive and we don't want to see it. Even then, I think it'd be better simply to not remake the work than to try to change what made the work the work.
Yeah.
Like, even if, like, Michael Jackson censored his song, They Don't Care About Us, because it had a lot of slurs against the Jews.
Yeah.
And he thought that they were a lot more harmful than he realized when he first wrote the song.
Yeah.
And maybe he's right. And maybe he used them in the wrong way. But the thing that made the song great, and the thing that, if I go and say, okay, I want to hear this great song, and here's the remastered version, so I can hear it in its original glory, but with modern sound. I don't actually get that original song.
Yeah.
I get a facsimile of the song. I want to, Cromwell said it, I want you to paint a portrait of me that's as accurate as possible, warts and all.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't just shave off the warts and call it a day with the new art. I think if you're doing a remaster or remake, I think you do have to keep those. If you want to change it and improve it, you have to make a sequel or something.
Yeah.
I think, because if like Final Fantasy VII, right? The remaster. Or remake, I guess. Yeah, definitely remake. When they did the remake, it's like, oh, cool, now I can finally experience Final Fantasy VII without needing a PlayStation, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
It's not the same game. And even every single one of the remakes is like this. Like they redid number 1, 2, and 3, and they added in the auto battle, and they added in all these quality of life. And it's like imagine if, I don't know, Elder Wilds, they actually did an update recently to try to improve a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
But imagine if Outer Wilds does a remake 10 years from now, right?
Which has a mini map with a waypoint.
With like fast travel.
Yeah. Or just a little compass that points, go here next.
Yeah. Or Breath of the Wild, right? Comes out, they're like, okay, here's all the shrines unlocked from the beginning, because it's a pain to fast travel to all of them. And you know what? We'll just give you all the spirit orbs, because who wants to solve all those shrines?
Yeah.
So, although actually, I think Matthew Matosis had a much better suggestion for the shrines, which was each of them give you a little power, like 5% swim speed up. This one lets you jump twice in the air. This one, like, just give each shrine just a little something, rather than, here's an orb. Here's an orb. There's 120 of them. If you get all 120, you can go to the laser room and in the Forgotten Temple, and you get some fancy gear.
That's actually, the percentage thing's something I loved about Divinity 1, which is, all right, my fire resistance, like, I have these items, and, like, the traits I've chosen, my fire resistance is currently at 95. Okay, now, I can add the shield to my build, which gives me another 10 fire resistance. It'll make my character way worse. However, if I have 105 fire resistance, then fire heals me.
It's the same in Age of Wonders, isn't it?
No.
They did something weird. They had an update in number 3 that removed the ability to go above 100%.
Yeah.
But it didn't heal you. It was something else.
It just stopped the damage entirely.
Yeah, no, it is Divinity, I guess I'm thinking of, where you just heal if it goes high.
Yeah, and I love that in Divinity. It's like, and I love just like the percentage increases of things. It's like, you get a 5% increase. It's not like, and then it's like, okay, that's good. And it's, And if you increase that, you get a 10% increase. It's not like the piddly little interest, like, this is a 2%, and then you get 2%, and then you get 2%. Ooh, it's like, here, have a chunk of 5%, and it grows, and so...
And, you know, it doesn't have to just be a percent thing. It can be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it can be like, you get another double jump.
But also...
You get +1 horse at your stable. You get +1... your glide is longer.
Yeah.
Like, it's faster or something. It can steer better. You know, you can, like, I was super disappointed when if you complete that island in Breath of the Wild, in the middle of nowhere where it takes all your gear, and if you go back to that island, after you've defeated the bird boss, the
Windblight.
Yeah, after you defeat Windblight, if you go back to that island, that warrior bird is on that island.
Yeah.
He's sitting on the shrine there, and he offers... You have to do like a second harder thing there or something, and then he offers to give you paraglide training, and he sends you through these giant rings in the sky, and there's like these... You have to like go through an obstacle course in the sky, basically. It's really neat. And the reward for it is just rupees.
Yeah.
And I was hoping the reward would be like, okay, you're super good at flying, here's a better paraglider.
Yeah.
Because it really felt like the perfect place to include that. And you know, like the golfing minigame in Breath of the Wild, like that would have been a perfect place to, if you beat that, you do the bowling one, you do the there is so many, like, it's such a big game, it's ridiculous. I keep learning about stuff I never even saw. But no, you know the giant chasm that the red dragon flies through?
Yeah.
There's like this long course with a giant boulder and a Goron who's playing golf with giant boulders, and you can play with him. It's like this massive golf course
The
thing.
world has ended. It is the post-apocalypse. And there's a freaking rock golem playing golf in a hole.
I think the channel is called Jacob Geller. I don't really like his videos typically, but he did one called Every Zelda Game is the Darkest Zelda Game. And he had a great point where he said, Breath of the Wild, it's the apocalypse to Link and Impa and Zelda. But to everyone else, it's just their life. It's how things have always been. And they're living and they're thriving.
Yeah.
It's actually this really neat thing. But, you know, if you beat the golf minigame, it'd be neat if you got like you got ×2 knockback on your club weapons or something. Or
Yeah, you're living and throwing as the giant laser shooting robots run about, and there's demons that spawn whenever the blood moon rises.
But in their communities, they're safe, right? Like, within their communities. They can't go out far, but they can go out. And there is people that go around. And so it is kind of neat. And there's a neat video where he just goes through every game and says, and that is why it is the darkest Zelda game.
Isn't Twilight the darkest?
That's the one he starts with.
Yeah. But
But then he points out that, like, you know, in the first Zelda game, it's worse than the end of the world. Everyone is gone. The only survivors are old people living in caves. And the only person that can actually walk in the overworld is Link. But then he points out, Zelda isn't a game about being dark and gritty, and that doesn't mean anything. Dark isn't a genre in of itself. It's a thing that can happen within a game.
Dark Souls disagrees.
And so...
the game genre is dark.
One of the top comments, someone said, and that is why Link's crossbow training is the darkest Zelda game. But I was thinking, right? Ganondorf has returned. The world is in ruin. Even the hero destined to defeat him, Link, has been captured and is defeated. No one can save him. The only person in the world who can fight anymore is the very princess herself. And she goes around in the world, but to save her best friend. But even her best friend was someone who disrespected her constantly. And he was meant to be the hero, but instead he disrespected her, and he was captured by Ganondorf. And the only person in the world capable of giving her the tools she needs to survive is an evil capitalist who only cares about money and won't help her in the slightest. And he even though the world is ending. And so Zelda must fight on her own against dangerous foes that can kill her in 2 hits. And that is why the Zelda CDI games are the darkest Zelda game.
Yeah.
And Morshu's a jerk. Yeah.
I break it, you buy it.
Come back when you have a little more
Money.
money. When you're a little bit I want to have a snack, so wrap it up there.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.